else which is, all over the front pages today is this new interview that Meghan has given. The Sun front page has picked up on this one quote that she's talked about, saying Harry told her, "I lost my dad." And Prince Charles is said to have been saddened by this. And then we sort of understand there's a bit of confusion about the exact quote, what might have been said. Omid Scobie, who is sort of seen as a bit of an unofficial mouthpiece for us, then said, oh, no, she was talking about him referring to her dad, not...
right.
So what's going on here?
I'm not... The quote is quite clear in there. She says it's a 6,500-word interview, extensive. The interview was taped by the journalist for this magazine called Cut. She said, Harry told me he'd lost his father in the breakaway from the royal family. If
you read the interview, and I just read it, it isn't. She was talking about her father, and she talked about her father and the privacy issues she had with the Daily Mail that she went on to win. And they leaked her letter, and she talks about how the tabloids can split families, and then that moves on to in amongst that she says Harry lost her father. She's talking about the tabloids and the Daily Mail.
She's talking about Harry losing his father.
Yeah, but in context of her losing her father, that's what the Daily Mail
she says Harry lost his father, and then when it drops and it's seen in print, they get their chum to ring up the media and say, that's not actually what she meant. Well, what did she do?
No, but the chum is just repeating the whole interview. You look at the paragraph, the paragraph starts talking about her father. I've just read it.
Yeah, well, I've read it too, and I suggest you read it again, because she's saying quite clearly, Harry told me he'd lost his father in the process.
Her own father.
What's the difference?
I mean,
what's the difference?
Because she's talking about how the tabloids can ruin family relationships.
Did she?
And she's talked about that in the Royals as well, which I think is probably quite true.
I think you find she's had a pretty troubled relationship with her father long before she'd met Prince Harry.
Yeah, but I think you'll also find that...
And with her entire family.
I think you'll also find that the Daily Mail... Right. She sued the Daily Mail successfully for invasion of privacy for leaking a letter.
It was the Mail on Sunday, actually, but our sister paper. But I'm sorry, she's quite clear in that interview. She's speaking on behalf of Harry about his father, saying he lost his father in the process.
So as a general thing, the issue is, Jackie, isn't it, that every time she does an interview like this, she might be thinking, I want to set the record straight, I want to, talk about my podcast, I want to talk about my family life, I don't want to sort of be contentious, but every time something happens, there are quotes, aren't there, that then are picked over and people will criticise her or, there are different reactions to whatever she says.
It doesn't matter what she says. People like Andrew will have a go, basically. And remember, what she's trying to do, and she talks about this in the interview as well, is she wanted, along with Harry, to stay doing work for the royal family, but then also to be able to earn her own money so that she wasn't being constantly criticised for things like public money being spent on renovating their family home. So that's what she wanted to do. She wasn't allowed to do that by the royal family. So now they're trying to earn their living. I mean, a very good living, I have to say, but she's trying to earn her living. Therefore, she has to do interviews like this to flog her podcast, which she's just started doing.
Yeah, but what she also says, we weren't allowed to do that, which is what other royals and dukes and duchesses do. There is not a single working member of the royal family
because there's a difference between
that is allowed to go and make a commercial living. If she's talking about Zara Phillips and her brother, they're not working royals. They're members of the royal family, but they're not on the civil list. They don't do official engagements. No member of the royal family is allowed to...
But I think that's the point she's making. That,
but she thought they should make a rule for her, and the fact is, Harry is a very senior member of the royal family, and they're not going to change the rules for her. She also said she had to leave Britain because taking her children to school every day would have meant 40 photographers on her doorstep. It's simply not true. William and Kate take their children to school most days. We had a photograph on the first day when they were at school, all agreed the press stay away from the kids at school. Yeah, it's just not true what she's saying.
But I think it's absolutely true that she got absolutely an unfair treatment by the press compared to Kate. I mean, Kate was never accused of, causing drought and murder in Mexico because she liked avocados. So I think she's making a general point. That's the Mail. That was the Mail. I think it's the Mail, not the Mail on Sunday. Is Meghan's favourite snack fueling drought and murder? The Mail also said, in the early days, Harry's girl is straight out of Compton. And I think the point she's making, and she talks about this in her interview, point she's making is that she did feel she got unfair treatment. OK, she might be a slight exaggeration that the pats are out there outside every day, but it's like saying there's lots of traffic in London. I don't mean there's traffic every day, but there's traffic Sunday. So look, but the point is, I think she was treated unfairly by the press. The fact that she's done this interview, she's ended on the front of the Daily Mail, but the Daily Mail is saying, I wish she'd go away. It's quite interesting.
She's ended up on many front pages. Look, I think it's... If you read that interview beginning to end, I think it's a bit weird. Who buys an £11 million house having only looked around the garden?
It was the palm trees, Andrew.
The palm trees she saw.
Palm trees. That's why, can I just say, but when they looked round the house, they spotted 2 palm trees joined together. Harry said, my love, it's us. When Archie goes past them, he says, hi, Mama, hi, Papa. I mean, who couldn't fail to be moved?
And so
hard-hearted Andrew Pearce is not moved by
Jackie,
this.
would you walk round a house and just look at the garden and buy it, particularly when it costs £10.5 million?
No, and I wouldn't buy a house worth that
That's
much,
not true, because they said when they started looking for property, this property kept on coming up, and they avoided it, and eventually they went to see it, and they took one look at it and thought, oh, this feels like...
They hadn't even been inside.
It's a romantic story.
Yeah. Well, they're very lucky, of course, because she's a member of the royal family. They can afford to buy an £11 million house.
Well, they've also made a lot of money from Netflix deals and podcasts and her acting career.
And to make that sort of money, Adil, she has to continue to slag off the royal family.
Well, continue to...
That's the deal.
She's not actually slagging off the royal family.
She wasn't in that interview.
She's not at one point.
Well, OK, but in that interview, she was not slagging off the royal family, to be fair. She was trying to... She was building this story about herself.
And we should say criticise. We should use that word at this time.
Criticise, yeah.
She was using that interview to sell her podcast, which I haven't yet listened to. But...
Not as good as yours.
Thank you. Good. Well done. Let's leave it there.
Did you get the bit about the guttural noises that she was making?
I like that.
Yeah, she wanted the reporter to tape them.
Transcribe
the guttural noises she was making.
And included as part of the interview. Yeah.
Well, because she knew that somebody like you, Andrew, would interpret what her guttural noises were.
Well, why was she making guttural noises?
Well, we all harumph.
Well, if you're asked difficult questions, sometimes, you need a bit of thinking time.
I sit next to you, I'm going, oh.
See what Kevin does.
Well, look, we've picked out the highlights for you this morning. Anyway, thanks very much.